afternoon, guys. How are you? It's a pleasure to have you here. Let's enjoy this presentation. Amanda VanDaniker is going to present quality education and social environmental development for us. Of course, in English, because she's in the United States. She's American, right? Okay, I'm gonna tell you about her academic background now. I'm gonna read, okay, because so many things. Amanda VanDaniker is a Bachelor of Science in Family Studies and a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from the University of MD College and a master's degree in elementary education from George Mason University. The teacher will talk about inequality and discrimination that can affect environmental education in the world. To change this reality, she understands that education at all levels is the way to change mentalities and free us from tunnel vision, from a limited view of reality about human beings. So let's receive Amanda VanDaniker.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today. I'm just gonna start off by going a little bit deeper into my background. I know Amanda introduced me and told you about my degrees, but I'll tell you how I got those. When I went to undergraduate, went to the University of Maryland, College Park, which is near Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, kind of in between. And I wanted to study psychology. So I started off with a general arts degree in psychology because I was interested in it. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to become a psychologist or a counselor per se. So as I took more classes, I ended up focusing on children's psychology and development, which I really enjoyed because I'd worked with kids, throughout my life thus far. And then that led me to taking family studies courses, which before going to university, I'd never heard of. And so family studies is basically where I studied how the family unit is changing and how society and outside influences affect the family, the importance of different roles in a family, like the breadwinner, the caregiver, and children. And how society looks at and treats different types of families and how this affects the resources that are available to those families. So I eventually took so many family studies classes that it just made sense to double major. That wasn't my original intention, but it's what happened. So I ended up with my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and my Bachelor of Science in Family Studies. I ended up working a bunch of semesters at the child care center on campus that was for our university faculty. And once I got through that, I was probably a semester away from graduating with both my undergraduate degrees, and I decided I want to be a teacher. And in America, usually when you want to become a teacher, especially an elementary school age teacher, you have to have your master's degree within the first 5 years of being hired. So it just made sense at that point. I wasn't tied down anywhere. I wasn't really doing anything. So I went ahead and applied around to get my master's degree and my teaching certificate at the same time. So that's why I ended up at George Mason. It was in Virginia, and it was actually near my sister. And she was living with her husband and 5 kids who were elementary school aged and younger. So it was pretty valuable experience being surrounded by them while I was working on this degree, because I was seeing kind of everything in action through them. After that, I went on to teach first grade for a couple of years in Virginia. And then my husband and I moved to Maryland, and there was actually no teaching positions available. I applied to a lot of different counties. And it was just a time when we moved, it was just a time where every teaching position was full. Which is not the case anymore. But so I ended up working for an early childhood facility in Maryland because my degree allowed me to teach pre-K through 6th grade, so 4-year-olds to 11-year-olds. So I ended up being a teacher there for a few years, and then the assistant director and the director of the facility before I left to have my own children. So I'm going to be using my background in education to talk to you about what quality education looks like, with an emphasis on environmental development and what that maybe looks like now and in the future. And so we could go to the next slide. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is how poverty affects environmental education. Poverty is a far-reaching issue in education all over the world. Every country has to face that this is a major obstacle to children's educational journeys. Even in the United States, my dad was telling me that a lot of the time while he's in Brazil and he talks with people, they think that the United States doesn't have as much poverty, but we have a lot. So it's a real barrier to access for children in education here as well. So poor nutrition, health issues from a lack of medical care, poor medical care, and limited access to technology are some of the barriers that children all over the world face when it comes to education and the environment. So when we think about the future of environmental education for this subset of children, I think we need to consider how environmental education can positively affect their lives and make a good change for them. So, for example, in terms of nutrition, if they have more sustainable practices for growing food, it's going to increase the food supply available to lower income families and encouraging education about how to grow their own food, and supplying places for them to do that benefits communities locally without them having to rely on larger community or government programs, which can be really beneficial because sometimes those programs don't come through as intended. So space to grow healthy food could be provided at schools or at other public facilities like libraries or community centers. And the ability to trade food with one another could be another potential benefit. If a couple of people, can grow food in their backyard, and you're able to focus on one thing, like one person's growing carrots and another is growing, lettuce, and you're able to trade those things, then it gives more people in the community access to food that they wouldn't otherwise have. I saw this firsthand a few years ago. My husband and I, before we started having kids, decided to go to Africa to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. So we went there, and we ended up staying in a town called Arusha. And it's just a little bit away from the mountain. We were going through a climbing company that had a hotel there. And as you get to the airport, you get picked up by someone who works at the hotel, and they drive you back. We're driving through town, and we see a lot of stuff that we're used to. There are big hotels, there are grocery stores, there are shopping centers. But then as we got closer to our hotel, the area got very, very poor. A lot of the children weren't wearing clothes, and a lot of the houses were made out of things that people found. And then we pull up to the hotel, and it is like 25 foot walls with barbed wire at the top. And it just wasn't what we were expecting, because they don't prepare you for that before you sign up for this climb, like what that area is going to be like. And so there are armed guards. They let us into the hotel walls, and we go in, and they tell us, you can walk around the hotel grounds, but you can't go outside, because as people from another country, you're not safe here in this particular, part of town. So we're walking around the hotel, and in the back, where like in America, you would have like a really big pool or a bar or something like that. That whole space was being used as a garden for the people that worked at the hotel and worked for the climbing company. So in order to get a job at the hotel or with the climbing company, you had to be very trustworthy. And those, they only employed the type of people that they could trust with international guests. So it was a privilege to be part of that. And, the tips that they get from when Americans or Europeans visit to climb the mountain can be very lucrative for them. So it's important. But anyway, this space behind the hotel was a huge garden. And we were talking with some of the people that worked at the hotel, and they were like, yeah, this is one of the only safe spaces that we have to grow food in this area. Nobody else has access to it. Nobody can steal it. And it's just for the families of the people that work for the hotel and the climbing company. So this was really important to them. And it stands to reason that maybe the children of their families that now have consistent access to a better source of food may do better health-wise. They may do better in their education and just have a better beginning to their lives. So if we can kind of get more access to that for places, it's important. So improving environment in general and teaching lower income families how to better their local environment, things like picking up and properly disposing of waste, using public transportation to reduce pollution and get people exercise, and maybe planting trees to stop erosion can have a positive impact on their health. And in terms of limited access to technology, I think we as a larger society need to make sure that lower income schools and libraries have easy access to technology for students. So schools and libraries can be a hub or a place where environmental information can be easily distributed to people. Libraries are also becoming a source of more than just lending out books. I've noticed in the United States, I don't know if it's like this in Brazil, but a lot of our libraries are starting to lend out more than just books. They have what are called, lending libraries for hobbies and things like that. So you can go in and get all of the tools that you need for gardening. So shovels, watering cans, work gloves, or everything that you need to crochet or knit or cook. So it's kind of interesting because access to these reusable items can have a positive impact on the environment, because not only are poorer communities having the opportunity to use these items and do things with them, but it's also keeping these items out of landfills and benefiting the environment that way. So it's helpful in more than one way. We can go to the next slide. So here I'm going to talk about how inequality and discrimination can affect environmental education. Discrimination based on race, gender, religion, sexuality, etc., can limit people's access to education and create an unequal learning opportunities for certain groups of students. Having to face prejudices based on things that are fundamental pieces of people's personalities and lives can have a negative impact on their mental health and their well-being. Becoming more open-minded to including everyone in education and making sure that they have access to attain their goals is going to allow for more varying ideas to flow into education and create more varied ways to solve environmental issues in the future. We really need to branch out and think of new ideas. I've noticed in the United States, we have what we call tunnel vision when it comes to people who are responsible for governing others in the United States. What I mean by that is that we have a two-party system, basically. We have Republicans and we have Democrats. And when I was growing up, I feel like there was a lot more variety in terms of government. When you talked about Republicans and Democrats, you knew their different ideals, but now as I've grown up, I feel like the two parties are no longer dissimilar enough from each other to promote new ideas. And they're so dead set against each other's ideas that they end up canceling each other out. And no progress is being made in the United States in terms of, government and education and environmental issues, because these two parties are just so set on not agreeing with each other and not working together. I think the last time we really saw positive change was with when we had President Obama. And he had to work really hard to get anything passed, but he did just an excellent job of kind of bringing people together and making an actual difference in getting things passed. I feel like our past two presidents, current and President Biden and President Trump, have really done nothing for us in terms of environmental initiatives and education in general. All right, we can move to the next slide. So another thing I'm going to talk about is climate change in education. As much as some groups may want to deny that climate change is a thing, we have to take a close look at how our world is changing, and it's becoming increasingly obvious that what we're doing to the planet is having an effect on it. Some of it may be reversible at this point, and some of it may not. As our planet becomes more environmentally unstable, natural disasters like floods, droughts, and storms can disrupt schooling for children and adults for days, weeks, or months at a time, having a really negative effect on their education. Climate change can also exacerbate existing social environment issues such as access to food, clean water, medical care. A lot of this we've already talked about, but it makes it even harder for vulnerable populations to access quality education. We can go to the next slide. So I think there's a big importance in changing people's attitudes about existing prejudices. We need to stop thinking about the way it's always been. We have a saying in the United States that is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And basically what that means is if it's always worked fine up until this point, why should we bother changing it? But we need to get rid of that mentality and start embracing new ways of tackling issues. It would be super easy to keep producing items that harm the environment, or farming in ways that aren't sustainable, or producing gas-powered cars, or keeping fuel sources that aren't renewable. We've done that for so long, we know how it works. So it would be easy to keep doing those things, but could we do better? Yes, we could, get rid of, phase out gas-powered cars and go to electric. We could start using varying fuel sources like, solar, hydroelectric, wind power, things that are better for the environment. And that those would be better choices. Are they going to be easy to implement? Is it going to be a hard decision to make? Maybe. It won't always be easy, but it's something that is worth pursuing. So one of the major battles we need to take on in terms of the environment and education is changing people's attitudes about the importance of reversing the damage that we've already done to our planet. There's still a lot of people out there who believe we can just keep on living like we are and that the planet is going to adapt or be just fine. But obviously science is showing that this isn't the case. And without taking steps to combat climate change, pollution, waste management, and more, our children and future generations down the line are facing an unlivable planet. This is why environmental education for children, especially today, is so crucial. From a young age, we kind of need them to buy in that this is important and that we can't ignore it, and that something needs to be done about it, because our older generations just don't have that attitude. A lot of our older generations have a lot of ignorance when it comes to the environment, and that we can just keep on going and things are going to be fine, or they have the mentality of, I'm not going to be around to see the issues that come from this, so what do I care? While I was discussing this presentation with my dad, Frank, and Professor Cito, we were talking about a Greek proverb, which is, a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. So essentially, this means that we need more selfless actions that are designed to benefit future generations, from planting trees and instituting better ways to recycle, passing laws to protect and regrow our environment. Older generations not only need to teach the younger ones how to fix the mistakes that were made, but also we need to start living it and setting, a good example, and setting things on the right path as a positive example to children. And also so that they have a head start at fixing the mess that we've kind of made of the environment. Change has to start somewhere, and we have to just keep in mind that if we start change now, it's going to have a positive impact on generations to come. You can go to the next slide. So here we're going to talk about the future of environmental education, what we should strive for. These are just a couple of things that I thought of. I mean, obviously there are more ideas, but I think in terms of making education better in the future, we need to start off with a multidisciplinary approach. Sorry, something popped up. A multidisciplinary approach. So basically, we need to address environmental issues in all fields of study and at all age groups. We need to encourage young children to study how the environment is impacted not only in science and social studies, where that kind of subject is traditionally taught, but also address it in math and technology and reading and writing courses. And if we have environmental education permeating all areas of study all the time, then we will make future generations better thinkers when it comes to problem solving these issues. We also need to strive to make education free for everybody and continuing education. This is a huge problem in the United States. We do not have free education, really, and especially not as you get older. University is not free, not even our local community colleges. And as you get into your field of work and you need to continue your education, that's not free either. So I have a lot of friends who are thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because we don't have free education here. And when I was growing up in middle school, high school, everybody told me, adults told us, you have to have a degree. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't have a degree. So all of us went to school and we spent all this money. And we all took out loans. And now a lot of people my age, around my age, are struggling. We can't afford to buy our own houses. We can't afford, most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and just the cost of our education cost us so much in terms of life as an adult, it's made it really hard. So if we want to have better environmental education, and we want to have better education in general, we need to make it free for everyone. We also have a lot of, like I was telling you earlier, when I became a teacher, they basically said, once you start teaching, within the first 5 years, you've got to have your master's degree. So again, there we are telling people they need to have, more education, which is great. You should strive to continue your education and learn more things, especially as you get into your field of work. But a lot of, I speak from this perspective because I am a teacher, but a lot of teachers struggle because now you're trying to work and you're trying to do continuing education and you're trying to pay for that continuing education. You can't keep your license, your teaching license, without that continuing education. And then they're telling you, well, we're not going to pay for it though. So you also need to pay for the continuing education. So a lot of people my age see a lot of value in free education. It can only benefit us to have more people having access to education, and it can only bring more varied backgrounds and varied people into different fields. So it's a good thing. I think we also need to have more STEM education, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These options need to be available starting in early education and continuing through adulthood. And I am seeing a lot of this, especially my son is 6 years old. He just started kindergarten this year. And they have a lot of STEM options available for him. It's a big thing that they promote in all of his classes. There are a lot of after school programs that he can join that have a lot to do with science and technology and engineering and math. And they're really trying to promote it for all kids. So that's good. And then I think we also need to promote men and women to work in fields that don't conform to their normal gender roles. So like having more men in nursing and teaching and having more women in engineering and architecture. Once again, this can only bring more varied ideas into these fields, making it better, making us better problem solvers, essentially. Yeah. And so in the next slide, I think that you guys have some questions for me.
All right, thank you very much. Agora, pessoal, é o horário das perguntas, é o momento das perguntas. But before that, can I just translate some things you said for them to be sure they clearly understood about free education here in Brazil and not free education there in the USA. This is a very, let me say, a very hard situation not having paid education there, right?
Right.
You have to afford for everything. Pessoal, olha, uma das questões que ela trouxe em outras, né, que foi maravilhoso tudo que ela falou, sobre desenvolvimento, sustentabilidade, ensinar crianças, educarem as crianças já desde cedo para serem sustentáveis e deixar um país melhor para as futuras gerações, não é? Ela disse que eles têm, o pessoal da idade dela tem débitos monstruosos de educação, porque lá tudo eles têm que pagar. Eles vão fazer faculdade, tem que pagar, right? Certo? Não é? Tudo tem que pagar. Se vai fazer uma educação continuada, tem que pagar. Não é nada de graça. Eles são atolados de débitos educacionais lá e vocês não têm nem que se importar com isso, né? Apenas com a educação mesmo de vocês. So, if you have any questions, se vocês tiverem perguntas, she'll be glad to answer them.
I have one question.
Amanda, we have a student from the two Fatecs here, from Fatec Mogi and Itaquá. The student now have a possibility, the question for men.
Ah, yes. Please, if you have questions.
Can I ask?
Sure, go ahead, Emerson.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I would like to ask you, in your vision, can I say this? How is possible to change this kind of equals about man and woman in your vision?
Amanda, can you repeat that for me?
How can you, in your opinion, how can we change about equals about women's and men's, about everything, you know?
He asked about man, woman equality. How can we change that situation and get to more equality between men and women? Gender equality, right?
Yeah.
Sure. I think that it's going to rely a lot on people just becoming more open and more accepting of other people. And like I was saying about us changing in the I speak for the United States, us changing our government. Our government has this really limited view of people and what they should be like. Right now, we need more people in government who come from various backgrounds. We need more people of color. We need more women. We need more people of different sexual orientations. Right now, the United States is having a huge fight about, there are states that want to ban drag shows. So men who dress as women, they do a lot of shows for children in the United States. There's a lot of like drag show readings at libraries. And this upsets a lot of more conservative people. They don't want this happening. But in reality, we need to expose kids to more different types of people if we want them to have, more equal views in the future and be more accepting of other people.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda, for the answer. Do we have any other questions? Yes, we have someone raising a hand there. Go on. Quem tá com a mãozinha levantada? Leandro.
Hi, Amanda. I wrote just a minute my question here. Okay, and first of all, congratulations for the presentation, for your work.
Thank you.
I'm majoring in human research, and the topic is closely related to my final work. work, which deals with the inclusion of vulnerable people in a distinct job market. And my question is, how can we measure the effectiveness of environmental education programs?
Sure. I think there are several metrics that we could use to assess the effectiveness of environmental education programs. One is using like pre and post assessments on participants' knowledge and behaviors and attitudes. So basically asking people ahead of these programs, like, how do you feel about this? And, what views do you have? What do you know about this already? And then once you get through that environmental education program, touch base with them again and be like, okay, what do you know now? What of your knowledge has changed? What do you want to know more about? And that kind of gives us a measure of, did we get through to these people with this program? Did we impart the message that we were trying to impart? Another's to track participation and engagement. So was the event that the school put on, or whatever, whoever put it on, popular enough to hold again next year? How could we make it a better event to incorporate or reach even more people? And lastly, we can monitor the environment itself. So we can look at, are the initiatives, are the things that we're doing having a real impact on the actual environment and making it better?
Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leandro, for your question. I think we have someone here in the audience who wants to ask a question. Yeah, please.
Mais fácil. Esse custo, ela falou que a educação tem que ser livre para todo mundo, mas ao mesmo tempo que tem gente endividada. A gente sabe que, não dá para fazer isso exatamente de graça. Esse custo tem que sair de algum lugar. Como a gente bancaria esses custos da educação para todo mundo?
Lá?
Lá.
Aqui?
Aqui também, mas
Ela
no caso...
falou empréstimos.
Então, empréstimos tem a questão do FIES, né? Só que ao mesmo tempo...
Eles não têm nenhum programa
Lá eles não
deles.
têm nem o FIES, né?
No. He's asking about programs in the United States for free education. You don't have government programs that pay for educational programs, right?
Very few. So nothing really from the government that pays. But if you join the military, you can get free education through them. They'll pay for your education, which I guess is technically government. Or if you work for your state government, my husband, he works for, right after he graduated from his undergraduate degree, started working for the University of Maryland, and they paid for his master's degree. So he ended up having to pay for his undergraduate degree, but they paid for his master's. But not everybody offers that, and it's kind of more of a rarity. Sometimes if your parents work for a university, then you as their child can get part of your education paid. But it's not, sorry?
Kind of a scholarship.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and you can get scholarships. But again, they can be hard to come by. And so I think it's kind of based on like maybe luck or who you know. And a lot of people who are from poorer socioeconomic backgrounds don't have those options as much as people who are better off do. And it just makes access to education in the United States very unequal and not fair,
I see. Thank you. Would you like me to translate it for you?
Please.
Please. Okay. Não tem programa do governo lá,
Só
para final com
militares, né?
FIES, tá? Só quem trabalha para o governo ou então entrar como militar, né, fizer Forças Armadas, etc., tem a educação gratuita. Outros casos...
O interessante para eles seria justamente ter um programa governamental, né?
Ou vocês têm aqui,
Que a gente
vocês acham
tem aqui,
interessante? Acho que não,
Porque,
né?
veja bem,
Não sei.
um país como os Estados Unidos, o tamanho que eles têm, a economia que eles têm, os tributos que eles gastam com o F-22, por exemplo, não que o F-22 eles não precisem, mas, eles gastam trocentos milhões de dólares com um avião que eles sequer usam, E uma coisa que é importante, eles não fazem. Eles deveriam redirecionar os custos da federação para educação e não tanto para equipamento militar, que eles já têm de monte. Seria interessante, mas aí é uma questão governamental, né?
Yeah, he said that the government should take part in it.
Man, I'm sorry, has Wallerson, the student from Fatec Mogi, has a question too. Patrick and Douglas, Amanda, 4 questions here.
Amanda, can you do your question, please? Hello.
Me ouvindo, professora? Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Professora Amanda, eu tinha aquela pergunta, mas eu queria fazer uma outra pergunta, na verdade, para ela.
Okay.
Hello, Amanda.
Hi.
How to attract more girls to STEM study?
Attracting.
Como atrair mais garotas, mais meninas para fazerem essa parte de STEM, de engenharia, matemática? Porque eu acho que ainda, pelo menos aqui no Brasil...
Come on, Amanda.
Tô com vergonha, tá vendo?
She's
Don't be
embarrassed
shy.
of asking English. She's embarrassed.
Don't be.
Don't be embarrassed. Come on, try it.
Ah,
You can
professora,
do it,
não vai
please.
fazer isso comigo.
Try. I help you if you need help.
Então, how to attract more little girls to study STEM areas?
I think the best way to do that is just providing them access to those things in everyday education, if we want to, and showing more grown-up women doing those things, having more books written about, grown-up women who are in those fields of study and just making it more well-known. There are a lot of innovations that were made in, science and engineering and things that were done by women that we had no idea were done by women until you start seeing kind of like, you see a lot of those like viral videos and stuff now of like, did you know that this was invented by a woman? Or, and those are things that we weren't aware of. And we didn't see a lot of that when I was growing up. So we just need to make it more publicized that, hey, women are doing these things. And then giving little, younger girls access to programs that teach them that thing and give them that opportunity. Like I was saying, my son, he's 6. They do a lot of STEM programs in his school. He did a robotics building class after school, and there were just as many girls participating in it as there were boys, which was awesome to see, because there you go, there are girls having access to that, and it's just gonna, if they can spark their interest when they're young, then they're more likely to go into that field when they get bigger, which is awesome.
Good. Very good. Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
And you want to pass for Wallerson? Question, Wallerson?
Good afternoon. Can
Hi.
you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have some questions. Wait a minute. All right. Excuse me if I keep looking to my right, because that's where I've written the questions.
That's fine.
The first one is, what are some ways children can get involved with bettering their local environment?
Let's see. So ways for children to get involved with bettering their local environment. I think getting more involved with groups that that better their knowledge about social and environmental issues. So like in the United States, we have a lot of young boys and girls who join something called Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. And the focus of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts is like kind of a community mentality and an environmental mentality. They do things for their community. do different service projects and things like that. You can also join something in the United States called 4-H Club. I don't know if there's anything like that in Brazil, but what it's basically stands for is head, heart, hands, and health. And it's just a way for students to, or children to work on projects that, again, benefit their community. Another way to get children involved is volunteering. If we, as grown-ups and parents, promote them, maybe we should spend some of your free time this weekend at the animal shelter or helping another local charity, instilling those kind of values in kids. And even just promoting them to help in small ways, like cleaning up trash on their walk home from school or recycling their containers at lunch, and showing them that, hey, if we all do this little bit of help, it's going to add up and make a big difference for the future.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, sorry. I still have one last question. How can we engage parents and families in supporting environmental education?
Okay, let's see. Engaging parents and families. There are a couple ways. We could host informational sessions and events at schools and libraries. That's kind of a big thing here that happens in the United States. Maybe your school will host like a cleanup event or a recycling event or yard sales. There are a lot of charities here that do like tree planting events also. And they make it kind of like a family-friendly thing for you to bring your entire family to. You could also have schools provide information as part of a newsletter, and allow collaboration between the community and environmental groups. So we have a couple, I have a couple examples of this. I was talking about the Boy Scouts before. If you can start Boy Scouts when you're really little, so like kindergarten, first grade, and you can go all the way through high school. And if you do, you become what is called an Eagle Scout. And that's kind of like the culminating thing for Boy Scouts in the United States. When you reach high school, you get to the end of this and you do a huge community project at the end. So like maybe you build something for a local business or a charity, or you rehab a walking trail or a playground, or you clean up a beach or something like that. But it's this huge overarching project. And that Eagle Scout has to think of the project. They have to make plans for it. They have to do the fundraising for it, and they have to pull it off and actually do it. And so they need a lot of support from other people, from their families, from other families, from community members to help them get this huge project done. And that's one way that parents and families are getting engaged in environmental education. Another one, which is just, it's a really kind of unique one that I thought of while I was preparing this project, is that I live near the city of Baltimore, and it's right on the Chesapeake Bay, which feeds into the ocean. And there's a lot of pollution that comes from the city through the Chesapeake Bay into the ocean. Just lots of trash, because I mean, it's a major city, it's huge. And so people were looking for a way to mitigate this. And they came up with this thing. It's a contraption, they call it Mr. Trash Wheel. And it's basically this huge like water wheel kind of thing. And it sucks in trash from the Chesapeake Bay. And it gets filtered through this thing, this contraption. And clean water comes out the other side. So they put this in areas where they know a lot of runoff and trash comes out from the city, so that it can get cleaned up before it ever even reaches the bay or the ocean. And it was this really weird looking thing, and it's kind of it's a big machine that's in the water. And so they're like, how can we make this more attractive? And someone suggested putting giant googly eyes on it. So it's, if you ever have the chance to look it up, it's Mr. Trash Wheel. It has giant googly eyes. and kids love it. So it turned out to be a really extremely effective way of cleaning up the bay. But then also all of a sudden, kids were asking their parents, "Hey, can we go see Mr. Trash Wheel?" And schools were having field trips to it. And then they all of a sudden had the funding to make more of them. So now I believe it started in Baltimore. There are 9 states that use Mr. Trash Wheels now, and they've collected, I believe it's over 2,000 tons of trash and kept it out of the ocean. So it was just kind of like, I don't think they saw it coming, but they were just like, put googly eyes on it. And then kids, wanted to be involved with it and loved it. And it kind of came out of nowhere. And now it's this huge environmental initiative in Baltimore that has really benefited the bay and the ocean.
That's amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's really amazing. The wheels, the trashy wheels. Can we have one of those here?
You should. They're amazing.
Amanda, I have more 2 questions because you have only 10 minutes.
Sure.
No, I think time is over. Claudio asked me to finish this.
Finish. Yeah. Sorry because you have more 2 questions, but it's the time, right?
Yeah. Amanda, thank you very much. We feel very honored to have you here opening the cycle of communications. It was a real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. It was really lovely to see everybody, and I hope someday I get to Brazil and get to meet everybody in person.
Yeah, sure.
We want you here too.
Welcome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Just a minute. We have a little gift for you from the event, okay? It will be sent.
Here, this guy.
With that guy.
Rosado will give it to you when he's
Thank
back.
you so much.
It's just,
Nice. Very good.
Little
Thank
gift, é presentinho que a gente fez para ela, pela apresentação, com a logo do evento, do ciclo. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.